I don't know whether you've noticed, but an awful lot of my heroes seem to have had their inspiration on mountaintops. This is Ben Nevis, and my next hero won the Nobel Prize for the work he did after an inspiration he had up on the summit. He invented the cloud chamber, and his name was CTR Wilson.
Charles Thompson Rees Wilson was born at Glencorse in the Pentland Hills near Edinburgh, where his father was a progressive sheep farmer. Wilson went on to join the exciting group of young physicists in Cambridge.
This is the remains of the Meteorological Observatory, which was built in 1883. And people lived here and they took hourly observations for 21 years. And they sent them by telegraph via Fort William to all the meteorological stations in Europe. One of the people who was here in 1894 was CTR Wilson, an assistant observer. And he was really fascinated by two particular things. One, when he looked at the sun, he saw coloured rings around the sun. And the other thing was, when he looked at his shadow on the mist, when there was mist below him in the valley, he saw coloured rings around his shadow. And he couldn't explain this. He was really mystified and decided to investigate it when he got back to Cambridge. Now, the trouble was he couldn't easily get cloud in the lab in Cambridge, so he had to build himself a box to make clouds in other words, a cloud chamber.
Unknown to Wilson, the new machine would take him far beyond the realm of circular rainbows.
This is my cloud chamber, and I'm going to make some clouds right in here. And the reason you get clouds is that there's a lot of water vapour in the atmosphere, like there is around here, and if the pressure goes down or the temperature goes down, then the water begins to condense out into little droplets, and then it looks like cloud or mist or fog. So I'm going to lower the temperature by putting a little bit of dry ice. I've dragged this thermos of dry ice up here. I'll put a little bit in there, and that will cool it down.
Wilson got mist and clouds all right, but was surprised when sometimes he saw little trails.
Now, sometimes when there's an aircraft going overhead, you see a vapour trail, and that was the sort of thing he was seeing in his cloud chamber. And he reckoned it must be tiny particles. He tried radioactive sources, and they gave him little streams of particles. And he tried X-rays, and they did too. And I've got here a little source of radioactive particles. You see that little blob there? That's a bit of radioactive lead with a bit sprouting towards you. So I'm going to put that in and see if I can get some little vapour trails coming from the radioactive particles. There we are. There's some trails there in my cloud chamber.
He immediately realised how important this was. Rutherford had only recently suggested radioactive particles existed, shooting out of atoms as they broke down. But they were still controversial. Now Wilson had discovered a way to actually see them, or at least to see where they had been. By putting his cloud chamber in a magnet, Wilson could make the little particles curve to the left or to the right. By spotting their characteristic curved trails, he used the cloud chamber to identify the particles themselves. And that was why Wilson won the Nobel Prize in 1927.
Lord Rutherford described the cloud chamber as the most original apparatus in the whole history of physics, and it was invented as a direct result of his experiences here on Ben Nevis by CTR Wilson.